Ready to call the meeting to order? Linda, would you lead us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our first applicant tonight for the interview is Mr. Mark Mabel. Mark,
You just said my last name right.
I did.
That's a first almost, literally.
Okay, Mark, we're gonna start the questions with Ms. Puckett.
Okay,
Let's, if you would, Mr. Chairman, explain our time. Off.
Yes, yeah, we've scheduled a half hour for each interview. And
Okay.
then we'll have 10-minute breaks in between.
that's fine. What do we guys want?
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
okay.
Thank you for being here.
Sure.
In 3 to 5 minutes or however long, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
However long,
Well, cap it at 5
you better put a limit on that.
Okay,
Okay, let me see. Well, like Bill Cosby said, I started out as a child and went from there. I grew up in a little town in upstate New York, just about half the size of Prineville. We had a mishmash of all people from all kinds of walks of life. We had guys that were farmers, local businessmen, people that worked for Xerox, IBM, Kodak, and on and on and on. So that's the environment I grew up in. My dad was a pilot during World War II, and he was the first when they were doing that island hopping campaign. And he's my hero. I just put it that way, because about 10 years ago, my sister got a hold of the guys in his unit, the Red Raiders, and they said if it hadn't been for him, they'd be dead. And that says volumes about him and what he could do and the way he led his people. He never lost a plane, never lost a guy. And I've seen some of his strike photos, and he must have killed thousands and thousands of people. And like I said, he got through University of Michigan pharmacy school in 3 years when it usually takes 4. And he, excuse me, he did it on a GI Bill with a wife and a kid, me. And he ran the Strong Memorial Hospital pharmacy for years and years and years, which is an affiliate of the University of Rochester Hospital. So, you know, I mean, I modeled my life after him. He is, like I said, he's my hero. I played sports in high school, and you know, soccer, basketball, baseball, all the typical kind of stuff. And we had our little dinky town of Honeoye Falls, New York, 80 people in it, graduating class. We were killing everybody. I mean, it's like Prineville beating all the big teams in Portland. And we did it because we had all guys from all different walks of life that were working together as a team. And we just put all of our petty grievances aside and never even thought about, you know, not working together. And that stuck with me through my whole life. I went to Michigan State, got a degree in education, taught school for 3 years, and I'd probably still be teaching school. Well, not still, I would have retired, but state of New York was, they would hire teachers for 3 years and keep them, and then they'd trash them, because once you got 4 years in, you had tenure, and they couldn't get rid of you unless you robbed a bank or something like that. So I saw the writing on the wall. I figured, you know, I'm gonna go in the Army and get the GI Bill and go back and get my master's in, you know, physics, chemistry. I already had one in math and I don't know, humanities, social science, and a bunch of other ones. And I got in, and they kept promoting me ridiculously fast, giving me bonuses to stay. And I was doing something that was really cool. I was a diver. We did underwater construction. And I mean, you know, when the water's 300 feet deep and you're hanging on 190 feet deep, you have to work as a team. You put all of that other stuff aside. We had guys from, again, all walks of life. I've got a couple kids from the ghettos in LA another kid from Maine, worked on a boat. We had a guy from a Ranger detachment, guys that were mechanics and came in. And it was my job to kind of mold those guys together. And to say the honest truth, it wasn't hard to do because you had to trust each other. You didn't have any choice. Our biggest claim to fame, there's two things. I don't know if you guys who remember the Florida Flight 90 crash on 14th Street in Washington, DC. But we did all the salvage on it, dragged all the bodies out, all that kind of stuff. And two of my buddies were on the, when the Challenger went down, they helped the Navy and the salvage on that operation too. In a nutshell, what you see is what you get with me. I'm a straight shooter. I don't lie to people. I don't blow smoke up people. Well, anyway, you know, you get the gist. I base, if you ask me about something, first thing I'll do is start digging out facts about it. Like somebody says, well, the moon's made of blue cheese. Well, wait a minute, I'm gonna talk to Neil Armstrong and he brought the rocks back, so probably is not made out of blue cheese. Now, that's kind of an extreme example, but that's just the way my head works. I'm smart, I'm perceptive, I don't hold grudges. I'm all for team players. And after watching, when we first moved to Prineville about 6 years ago, really didn't pay much attention to what was going on in the school board, but then slowly I started coaching soccer, basketball, and some little league baseball. I kind of got interested in it because that really is where my heart is with being a teacher. I spent 4 years at the Navy Dive School teaching divers there, and most of these kids were right out of high school, 17, 18, 19 years old. And there's nothing like teaching somebody something and seeing the light going on in their head. You know, oh, hey, I got it, finally. You want to know anything else? Like I told you, I could go on forever.
Yep, we appreciate it, thank you.
Your next question would be, please tell us if you have any family members employed with the Crook County School District or any other potential conflicts of interest.
No, I'm divorced on my second marriage, and Paula's son and his family ran into a little financial difficulties, and we had him here for, I think, almost a year. And Paula's daughter or niece went to school here for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months, something like that. But that was, God, 5 years ago, something like that. But no, there's nobody that in my family that they're all on the East Coast. So no.
Being here.
Sure.
The next question here, please share with the committee your availability to serve on the school board and what potential future commitments you may have.
Real simple. I'm retired. And there's, if I get this position, my priority is arrange everything else I do around the school board. It's that simple. I play bridge on Mondays. I play in a couple of pool leagues. I go hunting and fishing, but you know, there's nothing I can't do that I can't, you know, jockey my schedule around. And my wife's all behind me. And so are my two sisters. They're the ones that talk me into doing this. So that answer your question?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Please explain your experience with public meetings and speaking in public.
With public meetings and speaking in public. Well, right now I'm on the library board. I've been on that for a year and a half or so, something like that. Public speaking, I did 2 tours in Korea as a diver, and I had, the short story is, all of the MOGAS, JP4, JP5, diesel fuel, all of that came through our underwater pipeline in Pohong, which is way down south. And I had to brief all these generals about what we needed and how we did it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because if they didn't get their gas, they didn't go anyplace. It's that simple. So, you know, these 2 and 3 and 4-star guys came down and, you know, I mean, I'm 6'8", 230, and you think I'm afraid talking in front of people? Besides, I got a big mouth anyway, so, you know, but, let's see, talking in front of, what was the other question?
And speaking in public, experience with public meeting and speaking in public.
Public meetings, I started, like I said, I started coming to the, school board meetings, probably a year or so before the Mama Bear, that last election. And I got interested and just kind of watching them and see how they work together and see what was going on. And, bottom, you know, short answer on this is, I got a lot of respect for those people that are left on the school board right now to weather that storm, because there was, you guys all know what it was about. I don't need to elaborate on that, I don't think. So, you know, just watching them, and they followed Robert's rules of orders when they did things. I remember, I think about a month ago, a subject came up and, I forget what it was, but Scott said something about, look, that's illegal. We need to check with our lawyer and, you know, get this straightened out before we do anything else. So they're using their heads. You know, not trying to rush into anything, because I think they learned their lesson with Skinner and a couple of the other people that were on the boards, you know, take their time. I don't know what happened with the selection with Skinner, but, may have just been bad luck, you know, wrong place, wrong time. Maybe they missed something. I have no idea, but you know, that's a mess that needs to be straightened around. And, whatever it takes, I'm all for it, you know, team player. And I don't know all those people very well, but like I said, having watched them and how they conducted themselves, my hat goes off of them. Now, I'm not wearing a hat right now, so, you know, I can't do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, would you be willing to attend trainings provided by the Oregon School Boards Association and the Oregon Government Ethics Commission?
Okay, can you run that by me again?
Would you be willing to attend trainings provided by the Oregon School Boards Association and the Oregon Government Ethics Committee?
Oh, no, you kidding me? You think I want to talk? Of course, yeah. Yeah, that's just gonna help me. I've read a lot of articles in the Bend Bulletin as well as the Central Oregonian about these clashes with, you know, what Prineville School District wants to do versus what Oregon Board of Education wants to do. And, you know, they seem to be button heads, and, you know, I'm willing to fight against something if I believe in it, but I'm not gonna fall on my sword either. I mean, if they got all the lawyers and all of that stuff, so some wars are worth fighting and some aren't. So, you know, teach me what I need to know and go from there.
Okay.
That answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Wayne.
Yeah, please share a recent conflict that you have had with an individual and explain how the conflict was resolved. What did you learn from the situation?
Okay, explore conflict with an individual. Well, there is a certain member of our bridge group that I consider to be extremely obnoxious. And I need to say no more.
Okay.
You know, I just kind of, I mean, when he starts going off, I just, okay, yeah, okay, you know, I just kind of try, when he starts going off to kind of change the subject and, hey, how's about this? What do you think about that? How is things going with, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm not gonna make any names, but I think you get the gist. I've had conflicts with people in the military. You know, and there are times when, you know, when we're not at war and it's, you know, you're not shooting at people, and I never shot anybody. I never got any shooting at me. You know, there are times when you sit down and you talk to them and see if you can work out something that's agreeable to you. But you know, like when push comes to shove and I'm in charge, I'm gonna take what you say, what your concerns are into consideration and making a judgment from there. And after that, there's no discussion about it. But if I can at all possible, you know, that situation isn't gonna happen here, you know, you know, I don't, you know, or anything like that kind of stuff, but you know, you do every single thing that you possibly can to work with that individual. And if like, for instance, if this school board votes for 4 people for something and I'm against it, well, guess what? I'll have my piece said and 4-1, majority rules, and you get on down the road and don't waste your time, butting heads with people, because it's counterproductive, very counterproductive.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna give Joanne a chance to catch up here, so
Oh.
we'll jump in and get the next question, but before I do, I wanted to thank you for your service to our country. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Please tell us what you will bring to the board.
Teamwork. Like I said, I'm really smart, and that's not egotistical, because I was 10 years old, Wendy was 8, and my other sister was 6, and my dad was Mensa smart. He was at that society that's got 140 IQ or higher. And he said, all 3 of us down right there, and I'll never forget, he said, you kids are really, really, really smart, and you're gonna go places. And he said, having said that, make sure that you use your brains for a good cause, whatever it is, and don't lord it over people. I'm pretty perceptive. I don't, get every single thing about, people and, who they are and what they are, but a lot of times I'm pretty spot on. Cooperations, like I said, after watching those guys, the 3 members of the school board that are led, watching them in these meetings, I think I'll fit right in with them. Not that I'm gonna be a yes man, but I don't see any personality clashes with any one of them. None. That answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Mabel, that concludes the questions. We're going to remind each applicant that we have been tasked with only making recommendations to the board. The board will make the final decision. They may or may not ask for follow-up interviews.
Okay.
But at the board meeting Monday, if we come to a conclusion tonight, that's when we'll present that.
Okay,
Okay,
sounds good.
thank you very much.
Wow, 20 minutes? All right. Cut the end. Okay. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
For your time.
And girls, or ladies, however you'd like to be referred to.
Hey, I'm holding you to April 22nd, fly fishing season. All right, you're not getting out of it this year. See you later.
Hey, Joel. We're gonna have a discussion about each applicant with the.
Yeah, I like that.
Is there any discussion?
I would like to say that I've had the opportunity to get to know Mark for over a year, playing bridge every Monday. His situation at the bridge table is interesting in that he didn't really have a partner, and he didn't have a lot of knowledge of bridge. He has a very quick mind. Bridge can be a complicated game. He picked it up pretty easily. He's playing with a person who is very demanding and is pretty experienced at the game and is not shy about bringing that to the attention when you've made a mistake. And that was the man that he was referring to. Mark handles it really well. There have been times when I thought, what the hell, And so he does a really good job with that situation, which I think a lot of people don't. And so if he gets himself into a situation where he's not going to be the most knowledgeable person, most educated person in that environment, he is capable of paying attention, learning, and he has a quick mind. Over the year, I've seen him become pretty efficient at what he does at the bridge table. And he is outspoken. That doesn't bother me. He'll say his piece and that's it. Just like he said, he was true to what he said there. He'll say his piece and then it's done. And we'll move forward. at the bridge table, we're not having fistfights, we're just having fun. And so, he's a good person to be around. He's confident. And he knows who he is.
I got that from him, definitely. He's very confident and he's unscared. Yeah.
He doesn't, he's not arrogant. I don't think that he's got enough confidence to be strong.
That's my perception. He's a big man. He could be overpowering, but he seems to have a very welcoming personality and isn't, in my opinion, probably wouldn't be one to fly off the handle. He'd want to get all the facts before he moved forward.
Yeah, when I read his resume, thank goodness that you brought it to the attention that I had it. And last night, thank you again. But
Well, here
he's
for
been in
it.
situations where, like you said, you're 300 feet underwater, you better know where you are and be able to operate.
I did like his answer when he said, if something came to a vote and he was the only no vote, that he would explain his piece, where he was coming from. And the vote would be 4-1, this being a no, and we move on from that. And he got his point of view out, and we're done, and we move forward. And I think that's commendable.
I also like that he's been on the library school board, or but not the library board, because I know they've had some conflict as well, so, I have honestly have never met them, but I mean, I just know there's been conflicts down there of just the board in general and the whole thing, and so I think that's a good thing that he's still there. And that stands out to me.
I'm gonna say one big minus for me. And that is the community has really suffered the last year and a half between the way that the temperature of the campaigns went and the way that the school board meetings have gone lately. And it has become very divisive. So it's hard for me, if a person comes to this interview and needs to make it about the two sides. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that part coming in. I want to hear, this is what I'm gonna do, this is what I bring to the table. And I that put me back to hear references to Dr. Skinner and the mama bears in a negative light, and these three are great and these two are not, and I don't think that's gonna be helpful.
So I'm glad you said that. I can say something similar. I agree with that. I think from a that standpoint, what you said about accepting the direction of the board as a whole, you didn't agree. I think that speaks volume. A lot of things that Wayne said about his background is right on, spot on. That's a great quality. What came to my mind when he caught himself on the mama bear comment, some of those other comments is whoever comes in, it can't have a bias. And I'm not saying that he does, but there was a couple of indicators that he didn't have a bias. And I would agree with what you said. Thank you for saying that. I think that's something we need to be mindful about with this candidate. Other than that, I mean, this is an accomplished person, very much so. Wow, that's all I can say. And thank you, Steve, for what you recognized his service to the country. I think that goes without saying. We all should have said that. But and he's a heck of a guy for sure. But I did pick up on him catching himself and his dissatisfaction, which as well founded as it may be, I don't think this is a place or time for that.
I have to agree with you, Steve. I kind of picked up that. I think we need to move forward and find somebody that's a good mix for what he was already there. I did. I just kind of looked on backgrounds and stuff, but his Facebook page is very political. And I think you need to be kind of neutral going into this. You can't be one or the other. But, you know, allowing personal interest being there.
Any more discussion?
Before we move on, I'm concerned about Joanne being up to speed.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, what everybody has said, cause I missed that, but I think what everybody's has said has been like a concern also, like, I'm right, you're right, I don't want the division, I want somebody to come in and be open-minded and, you know, not, like you said, let's move forward. Let's move forward. It's been a heck of a year and a half, and I think everybody is ready for just, let's just move forward and leave it behind us and move on. But everybody has great points, you know, he does sound like he can handle himself if he, you know, is not hot-headed, I guess, just listening to what you have to say, which I think is huge too. But yeah, I think what I'm looking for specifically is let's move forward from what has happened and get back to where we need to be.
Yeah, I think one thing that's important to me is that, he's only been here about 5 or 6 years. And I think that's a plus.
I agree with you on that one.
You know,
I agree with
he's
you on
not the
that.
only one that, I may be wrong about this, but I think he's probably the newest comer to this community. And seeing, I mean, he's been around the block, he's been in a lot of places and in a lot of different situations. And he's experienced education, that's the first thing about it. I know about seniority, I've been there, that deal, and he's right. He saw the handwriting on the wall, he did what he did. But there's nothing wrong with the community that brings in some fresh thinking from my opinion.
I agree, and just kind of to pick up on what you're saying, you've got some experience within Wayne. It doesn't mean that you would be biased. What those indicators, if you will, that came out during the process, it doesn't mean that he wouldn't have a control and be able to be able to manage that. So I just think I think I use the word mindful. I think we need to be mindful that that did come out. But it doesn't mean that he doesn't have it. They've got a good candidate. I mean, very qualified candidate.
I think when we start up again, Ms. Hemphill, we'll start with you and
Okay.
then we'll jump over to Mr. Forrester and then back around again.
That's getting confusing. You're putting a lot of pressure on us.
What question are you? Next to this, Laura.
Yeah, so Laura, it is an open meeting, so they can voluntarily come in and out.
Yeah.
And just further, we're on live streaming, so everything's there, so, yeah.
Hi,
How are you?
welcome.
Hi.
Hi, Ms. Hubert. How are you? Thank you for coming. Thank you for applying.
Yes, thanks for the
Um,
invitation.
We're going to, we have allotted 30 minutes per interview. So but don't worry about clock watching. I'm sure you'll be fine. We'll start with Mrs. Hemphill with the questions.
All right. Please tell us just a little bit about yourself.
All right, I'm a native Oregonian, born in Klamath Falls. I'm married. My husband was born in Bend. We have 2 children, 2 grandkids, and 3 dogs. And a little story behind that, when I first met my husband, he worked for an engineering firm and he was chasing development and land development in particularly. And so while he was chasing that, I was chasing him. And we ended up living in Alaska, Washington State, California, and finally returned to Oregon in the early 90s with an eye toward moving to Central Oregon because we both loved it so much. He retired and when we moved over here in 2006. So we've been here 19 years, but we bought property back in 1999 because that was our intent, was to move back to Prineville. So we're here to stay. When we first moved to Prineville, he was retired, but my goal was to do two things, and that was to go into public service and community service. And so I've been here those 19 years, I've been working for the Oregon Department of Forestry. So in public service there, and then community service, I served on the Cook County Budget Board or Budget Committee for approximately about 5 years. And so I've kind of accomplished those two goals.
Oh, I'm not. So again, thanks for being here and making the application. Please tell us if you have any family members employed with the county school district or any other potential conflicts of interest.
I do not.
Thank you, Ken. Please share with the committee your availability to serve on the school board and what potential future commitments you may have.
I have no conflicts, and I am very able to serve on the board. That was the question, right? Can you repeat the question? What was?
Yes, please share with the committee your availability to serve on the school board and what potential future commitments you may have.
I'm available and I have no future commitments. That would keep me from doing that.
So you can put as much time at this as we need.
Okay, good to know.
The next question is, please explain your experience with public meetings and speaking in public.
Two things. One is that I did serve on the Cook County Budget Committee for approximately 5 years, and in that capacity, I was the chair for a number of years, as well as a member of that committee. And in my professional life, working for the Department of Forestry, I've got a task book open for PIO, and so I go out on fires as a public information officer. And so I do have the opportunities to speak in public frequently.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Would you be willing to attend trainings provided by the Oregon School Boards Association and the Oregon Government Ethics Commission,
Absolutely.
and able to travel to those?
Yes.
Please share a recent conflict that you've had with an individual and explain how the conflict was resolved. And what did you learn from the situation?
Well, let's see, I can't think of a recent conflict. I know that in everyday life, there's always, disagreements, but I don't necessarily look at them as a conflict. I look at it more as an opportunity to understand where someone's coming from and somewhat find a common ground, if you can. A win-win is what I look for, so that I don't have a lot of conflicts in my life. Can't say that I never had them, but recently I have not had any conflicts that I've had to resolve, because I always try to, put that extra effort forward to make sure that I understand somebody else's point of view.
Okay, can you please tell us what do you think you would bring to the school?
I believe that I would bring a career of experience and knowledge in administration, compliance, budgeting, finance. I have a really diverse background in all of those fields, and so I think that I would bring that knowledge and also a high level of commitment. I'm very committed to public service or community service. And so I think I would really be an asset to the board.
Well, thank you. That is it. You did
That's it.
fine. Yeah,
Questions?
pardon?
That's it for the
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah, we're reminding each candidate that we are not, tasked with the hiring. We're simply going to make recommendations. The school board, as it sits right now, may or may not want, further interviews. So just so you're aware, if we make recommendations or able to tonight, we'll bring that to the board on Monday. So you're aware there's a board meeting Monday if you want to attend or watch or. Okay, and it's at the middle school at 6:30, I think, Joel.
Okay.
I have asked him.
Great. Well, thank you
Well,
for your
thank you
time.
very much for coming in.
Thank you for your.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna take a lead from watching my favorite person, Wayne. On 7:30 in the morning, Wayne. Park, but, so, like Wayne with Mark. I had the opportunity and was on the Cook County Budget Committee, Kathy, you might remember that. While Laura York was serving on that. So, what I can say is that some of the things she talked about here, is spot on. I mean, she is all about compliance. Keeping us on track. She was a chairman, I believe, for a while. So she followed parliamentary rules, of procedure and just very, analytical and very focused on the process. Is the way I would you second that? And so that's basically all I know. She's very pleasant to be around.
I think the only worry I have with her is she's so soft spoken.
Yeah.
I do worry about that a little bit. I don't know how, I mean, the world that we live in you have conflicts all the time and that's the only thing, because bless her heart, she is the sweetest little lady. She is just the sweet, and it worries me. I mean, I haven't been I'll completely admit, I haven't been in the school board world, but I've been in the 4-H and FFA world, and it can get brutal. And yes, and so that's the only thing I think that I would have, but as far as like, knowledge goes, I mean, she's quick. I mean, you know, she was always asking questions of all the department heads that would come in and, you know, and hard questions, you know, about their budget, you know, so I will say that about her.
Yeah, I just to tag on to what you're saying, Kathy, I think from a budget standpoint, helping the school board with their budget, she'd be really good.
Yeah.
Because she does ask super good questions and drills down. She stays, I mean, she like a, you know, she stays right with it till the answers apparent. So I think that is one of her strengths is kind of back to procedural and,
Yes.
and, you know, digging in and, you know, getting answers to questions and very good on the budget, I would say.
One thing that did stand out for me, it's only because I have some experience with fires, when she said that she had a task book open, which means she's in training for a public information officer for fires.
Right.
What I do know about those, and others that are familiar with that can chime in. What I do know is those public information officers have to deal with, you know, the public that, you know, my house is burning down, why can't I go here? Why did you cut off this road? All those things that are in the moment type things. And if she's in training for that, that means that she probably understands what information can be released, what can't. So that whole idea of what's appropriate at the time, I'm guessing she has some familiarity with, so that knowing that was a good thing for me.
What stood out to me is very early on, She said from the time she moved here, she had a passion for community service and, so she's thought about it a long time and she has proved it by volunteering on the budget. So I'm impressed.
You know, for me. I, he's, I think a person who is very capable. Especially in this area of budget. She has a lot of experience there. That's certainly an important thing. You start building a budget or making determinations about budget expenditures. There are going to be people who are left out. And people are not gonna get their way. She is soft-spoken, doesn't mean that she's not without a fine of steel. I've seen people that are soft-spoken that have plenty of courage. And so I don't know that about her. That makes me concerned because there's gonna be push and shove. That just will happen for sure. And so you have to be able to hold up under that. And the other thing for me, and I don't know how this would bear on a school board member, but in my opinion, and I've talked to her a lot, she's been somebody I can beat on her window too, and she's gracious enough to talk to me. This school district has a very competent financial officer in place. Thank goodness. She's been here a long time and done a lot of service for the district. That's not to say that she wouldn't accept guidance, but you know what she's doing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think where her skill would be helpful is bringing that to a level or a level of education, I should say, that would help other board members that maybe aren't numbers buddies, numbers people. And again, I kind of look at you, Kathy. That's, I think, what I experienced with her own budget committee is she would, in essence, I guess, I think I would describe it as she would drill down to where we all kind of got it. And she just stayed with it until it was very, very clear. So that was helpful. One of the things I didn't really pick up on is that I'll call it passion for education. I've not been a board member on the school. Years ago, I did the budget committee. But that's one thing. I think she may have that back, but if I get back at the written work, but that certainly came out with the previous person, that there's a passion for education. And you know, we didn't really get that. I didn't get that from our interviews, but again, not saying it's not there, just again, something to be mindful about.
I am curious, is she still currently working for the Forest Service? Or is she retired?
No, I think I asked her on the way out there.
Yeah, and I think
No, I
it's-
talked to her on the phone.
I think she was going to be, I think it's such
Close.
a application
Yeah.
that she was going to be retired.
Yes.
At the end of the year.
Yeah, at the end of the year, but she, and I don't know if it matters, but she doesn't have any intend to run for election in May, so
Yeah.
that was one of my questions.
You know, and that's interesting because I could have swore, and gosh, I forgot to bring it up because I wanted to ask her that question is. I thought she said she would.
Okay.
When she called me on the phone to ask, you know, what I thought about her doing this. I just encouraged her. But yeah, I don't know, Tammy, if there's a way that we can verify that question. Because I could have,
It's,
I was almost,
She marked now.
no, yeah,
We're just wondering if we should follow up with
Yeah,
her.
absolutely.
Well, I think she answered that on question 3. She just plain said she has no scheduling conflicts. She's available. So, if she works for the Forest Service, she probably has a ton of comp time, if you want to call it that, available.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
something comes up that she has. to-
Yet at the same time, when you work in the Forest Service and there's fires, you get called instantaneously and she can be out 2 weeks to a month. Available or not.
Which is gonna be done at the end of the year, this
So
next summer, there could be conflicts.
that would
Maybe
be
that's
a
why she-
question I would have for her.
Usually the public information officers on. From what I gathered from what she said is mostly does that work for wildland fires? Not so much fires in towns. et
Right,
cetera.
but that also
But,
means
yeah.
that they'll go where the fire is, they'll usually go to Calvin.
Yeah, well, I've done some of that the last 4 years, wildland firefighting and the public information officer, they like to keep local as much as they can. So my guess would be that if we had fires here, she would probably be unavailable, but I kind of doubt whether she'd be shipped all over the Northwest.
Not true.
Because they like to have local people as the public information officers,
Yes. That's true.
because they know, what you say, you can go here, you can't go there, they know what they're talking about. Someone asks, well, what about here? And they know the local person knows what they're talking about.
Here, whenever.
Okay.
whenever it's ready.
Any more discussion? You want to move on to, Ms. Swift? Are we ready? We're ready.
I don't want.
Hi, welcome. Yeah. right here.
Okay, let's do it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for applying for the position. We appreciate it.
Of course.
Chelsea, we do have snacks.
Oh, my goodness. I think I'll wait till after. Awesome. Hi.
Ms. Swick, we've allotted 30 minutes for
Okay.
each interview. So far, we're running quite ahead of time, so
Okay.
you'll be fine.
Great.
Okay, who did we leave off with? See, I confused myself.
Well, I know, see, we got out of sync.
Who
I
had
think
the
it's me.
last-
I think.
I had the last question, you're right.
Okay, so could you please tell us, and good evening,
Hi.
could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My husband and I moved here in August of 2023. And the reason why we chose to Prineville is we love the school district. And my husband's been a school counselor for many years, and he was so impressed with the care that you guys have for your kids and the leadership and the community that we actually chose to move here based on what we saw. And I'm a mom to 3 boys. They're very rowdy. They keep me very busy. My oldest is a 6th grader. And he comes home and tells me, I'm like, hey, bud, like, how's school? And he's like, it was awesome. I'm like, what 6th grader loves school? But I love hearing that. And then I have twins that don't look like twins at all, because one of them is about a foot taller than the other one, but they are in 2nd grade, also within the school district. And I love being outside with my boys. We're usually out either riding horses or on the mountain or riding bikes. We have 3 boys, kind of try to get them worn out as fast as possible. So, and professionally, I have worked in the IT consulting business for about 15 years, and I love learning. So it's great because I get to learn all the time. I run a team that manages a portfolio of business about $7 million. I'm responsible for making sure that business renews. And I work with several large software vendors as my clients, such as IBM or ServiceNow. So,
Thank you.
of course.
All right, thank you for being here. Please tell us if you have any family members employed with the Crook County School District or any other potential conflicts of interest.
Yep. So my husband Sean is the high school counselor.
Good, thanks for coming,
Yeah, of course.
sharing with us. Please share with the committee your availability to serve on the school board and what potential future commitments you may have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, fortunately, I have a partner who's super supportive and, believes in in the school district, and so. You know, I do work full-time, but it's during the day. One of the things that really stood out to me about your guys' meeting on Monday was. Just somebody's willingness to be able to invest in being educated around the school board and how that works. And I just want to be really upfront that that would be a high value and priority if you guys were to choose me. I'll just be humble and honest that I don't have a history of being on a board, so I would be a learner. If you were to select me, then my goal would be to possibly run and make this a long-term investment. I think change comes, or ability or to have impact comes from having a long-term vision. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So thanks again for being here.
Yeah.
Please explain your experience with public meetings
Mhm.
and speaking in public.
As far as public meetings, such as we're doing now, I would be completely new to that. So that would be a learning curve for me. As far as speaking in public, I do that day in or day out. I'm a sales professional, and so I end up presenting a lot, both in person and virtually. To be honest, I love it. And communication is just in language is a passion of mine.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Would you be willing to attend trainings provided by the Oregon School Boards Association and the Oregon Government Ethics Commission?
Absolutely.
And it requires a little bit of travel, possibly.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Of course.
My next question is, can you please share a recent conflict that you have had with an individual and how the conflict was resolved? What did you learn from the situation?
Absolutely. It's funny how this week, turned out that I have a great example from yesterday. So as a sales professional, I deal with a lot of contractual terms and money. And so that always seems to kind of bring conflict to the forefront. And I had a contract that had closed last week. And a client wasn't particularly happy about the fact that some of the inventory that they originally had purchased had shifted around. And it got pretty heated. And there's, I think, a couple of really core things that I really value. And first of all, is making sure that we have the facts straight, right? Like, we all know 80–90% of conflict usually comes from some kind of misperception or kind of just not understanding or seeing the full picture. And so, first of all, I laid out the facts of how that had gone in an empathetic way, right? Everybody is human. They want to feel seen and validated when conflict comes. But then the other piece of that is getting, since my clients are all over the world, getting people on the phone in a video call and really addressing that in person. I don't think text or email are great forums for dealing with conflict. And so once we got on the phone yesterday, I gave them a chance to be mad and have their say, and then but I was also prepared with a solution and a way forward for us to work things out. And so they absolutely came around, and we found kind of a middle ground on some of the solutions and something that would work for both of us. Yeah, of course. Yes,
It's not really not my turn, but I have a question about your response. And
yeah, please.
It was interesting that you could refer to something that just happened yesterday.
I know.
And so, in the business world, I think it's probably, I've never been there, but thank goodness. But anyway, probably pretty common. But do you have, a group of attorneys that you would talk to when you're preparing to talk to this person on the phone? So are you familiar with that process where, there's going to be a problem? And
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
you work with the people that are, retained by your business so that you're prepared.
Absolutely, yep. In this specific circumstance, it like, we were able to find a solution without involving legal teams, but I am very involved. For example, if we're negotiating a contract of master terms and agreements, then there's a lot of back and forth around terminology, privacy policies, you know, just different organizations, right? Like you take a massive organization like IBM and their privacy policies, and then my organization, that's the consulting organization, so they have very firm perspectives on privacy as well. And so, you know, at that point, then I would absolutely, you know, involve my legal team and their legal team as well. And, you know, it's funny, you know, you get the most technical legal, you know, whatever it is, it's still just getting people on the phone. And, you know, I see, you know, usually we can solve it in 5-10 minutes, and it's like, oh, why was everybody so upset? But yes, I do have, at least in my professional world, a pretty good sense of when that needs to happen and when it doesn't.
Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions about that? Yeah, Debbie. Oh,
You're just the next question.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is the last question.
Okay,
Thanks
I'm
for
ready.
being here. Please tell us what you will bring to the board.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a few things that come to mind in a sense that, number one, I am so invested in this school district. I mean, all of my family, when they leave in the morning, they all go to school. So, and I really want it to be a place of thriving. I am excited about the opportunity because I have worked really hard in my professional career to have the skills and the experience that I do. And I would love to serve our community with those skills, right? I recognize not all of them are going to be directly transferable, and I recognize that I would hypothetically come in as a learner, specifically around boards. But I think, you know, it was interesting. I was reflecting even on our time here so far, and we had an exchange student that ended up graduating last year, and I was blown away, like seeing the whole town show up for graduation. And I was like, I don't think there's anybody left like outside of the stadium. Or I love showing up at rec league soccer, and you know, all the parents are like, okay, who's kids playing here, whose kids there, and are we cheering everybody on? Or you know, for the mountain biking team, there's a group of adults that are coaching these kids that don't even have kids on the team. They just wanted to like invest and give kids an option to get outside and off screens. And so I just have a real passion of wanting to both protect and grow that within our community. And so I think there's both the care and then also the skill that I could bring to the table. Yeah, did that answer your question, Debbie?
Did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ms. Swift.
Yeah. Could I-
Reminding sure. Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to so sorry.
No, that's okay.
I just wanted to check in with the group before we wrap up to make sure if there's any kind of red flags or any concerns as I was answering questions that somebody wanted to ask a follow-up question, just to hold space for that.
I don't think so. No, I don't think.
Okay. Cool.
We're reminding each candidate
Yeah.
that we are simply an advisory board.
Sure.
We're going to try to give recommendations to the board. They'll be meeting on Monday.
Okay.
If we come to decisions tonight, then we'll present that to the board on
Sure.
Monday. Be aware that they may want to do follow-up interviews.
Sure.
We don't know. They may or may not.
Okay.
So,
Great.
okay, well, thank you so much. for
Yeah, it
coming.
was a pleasure. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussions?
I would say my first takeaway is that is gonna be the minus of not having the experience. And to walk onto this board and learn on your feet is a tough ask. But what she lacks in experience, I wrote, she makes up for in enthusiasm, intelligence, thick skin, the ability to de-escalate. That example was impressive.
I agree.
I would also say, just to add to that, he's very comfortable. in Saying her own skin, but she is, this isn't her first rodeo, for sure, and. Very comfortable in this type of setting. And I agree with you, I thought that there was response on the conflict question. I think she lives and breathes that every single day. And that's a great skill that she would bring to the table.
I agree so much with what Steve said, and that's why I asked that follow-up question. I think it's important. She knows how to handle conflict, and when I watched the last 3 board meetings where there is a lot of angst in the room, we have a board member who has been a leader for some time, and I think he's indicated more than once, I've asked him several times, and he's gonna leave. And it was pretty evident when really important decisions had to be made, the eyes turned to him. And you need somebody who, I think, on the board, she would be new, of course, but she's been there. And she understands it's really serious. You better find out what you can and can't do before you start making statements.
What she brought to my attention, and I might be off base here, but she knows what she doesn't know. And she knows where to go get you. And that's, if I would respond, when you got into the legal question, it was just, absolutely the right way to go about it.
I like how she said that, if there is a conflict, I guess we stuck on that one, but, I did like her answers to that, how she says, she wants to get to the facts first.
Yeah.
And that she prepared herself with a solution before she even made that phone call. She already, she prepared herself for what was coming, and she had an idea of where she wanted to go with that and how are we gonna make this better? And I really did like that.
The other thing I like, that she said it at least once, was she's vested.
Yes,
Yeah.
very.
That was what I wrote.
I kinda, and again, I've never been on the school board, but. Maybe there's a balance between having a vested interest with your children in the system. Maybe there's good and bad with that, but the way she presented it was, hey, I'm vested in the community, I'm vested in sports, I'm invested in these kids, my kids, doing well, loving the environment, so. So I think, there's a balance in there on. Can't let that drive her decision-making process, but I didn't sense that about it.
I like it too, that she's new to the community.
Yes.
And that's another one that she's just,
Yeah.
we have fresh, it's fresh. I mean, she doesn't sound like she had a lot of ties anymore. I really like that. I think that's very important in any organization anymore that you bring in. Or board or anything, just a fresh view, they're not new here, you don't have any ties.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah.
And she indicated a willingness to run in the election.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's young and she's fresh.
Yeah.
And I think it just needs to be said, not that it's an issue necessarily, but whereas we've had multiple board members that have had relatives that were, working for the district at some level. But she has her husband, that's kind of a different level than maybe your kid, grandkid, whatever. That's a different level. So assuming she continued on the board, she couldn't be part of any negotiations that would have anything to do with her husband. So that's, I'm not saying that takes away her ability to do the job at all. I think, to use Steve's phrase, be mindful.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you just have to be mindful of that's out there.
Yeah.
You know, doesn't mean that she's incapable of doing the job, you know, but that does give a little. But that's gonna give a twist on how she looks at things because she's. You know, have the point of view from home. Yeah.
Good point to think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wondered the same thing. That was my worry is, can you take off that hat?
Yeah.
You know, because that is hard.
Oh,
It's
man.
very hard to take off that hat. And that would be my biggest worry with her.
Yeah.
Is if you could do that. And even when it comes to your kids, you know, there's, you know, your kids as friends.
Yeah.
It's hard. And that was one of the things when I wrote down things last night for both of the candidates that we were gonna have that had kids.
Yeah.
Can you take, I know we've had members, you know, but. You know, I don't know. Don't know how that works out.
Kathy, we've been around long enough to see board members that were able to remove that hat
Yeah.
and do their job as a board member, and others that was much more of a challenge.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
just, it's a piece. It's a piece.
Did, just on that point, we've actually, in my time here, we've had two board members with spouses. We had Gwen Carr was on our board and her husband served as a communications director, and then we had Jessica Ritter and her husband as a teacher. So it's not uncommon, but yeah, it certainly brings up the point of needing to be mindful and always declaring a potential conflict of interest and that, so. With that, you guys, believe it or not, are 50 minutes.
Yeah.
50 minutes ahead of schedule. So, I have, the next,
That's interesting because when Wayne comes and knocks on my door at 7 in the morning, it says, I need a half hour. It's usually the other, now.
so I can call, the next.
That'd be great.
And see if you can jump on early, and then Chris is watching if
And
he's.
maybe if he does that, I'm gonna give Lori York a call and just ask her about that question, if she intends to run, and then you guys will have that tonight.
I just wanted to ask you a quick question. The one follow-up question was technically a piggyback to a very related question, but you said we have to ask everybody the exact same question. So what's our wiggle room?
We're on the same page.
Oh, I think that's okay. You're still asking the questions.
As long as it's relative to
He's on
something
now.
that's on our.
Yeah, there may be times the candidate's gonna give you an answer and you may have a follow-up question, and
Is that E?
that's perfectly fine, but I appreciate the question. Yeah. Let me get that roll.
Here, you can search, you can start typing his name on top of that. Oh, there he is.
I was hoping for his last. That's
Let's go on a limb and say that's him.
Steve, I'm blaming almost 75% of the problem with our lengthy discussions in the morning on you.
I can neither confirm or deny. I enjoy that.
There he is.
Yeah, they're all good.
Hello.
Good evening.
Oh, let's see. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Barely. Let me settings on my phone real fast. Sorry for this. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Osborne, we need to wait a minute until Tammy Parker, the secretary, comes back in the room. So you can relax a second.
Okay.
You hear us okay that time?
Good enough. Yeah.
Thank you.
Spoke to her, and I have to apologize because she had sent an amended application and I didn't print off the corrected one because she said she changed her answer to yes.
Okay.
So she does intend to run for election. And she wanted me to share and let you know that even though as a public officer, she's going out on fires, she wanted the committee to know that that is voluntary. That's in addition to her regular position. So she just wanted to make sure that the committee knew that.
Okay.
You bet.
Well, thanks for joining us, Mr. Osborne. I think we have a little tiny delay between the questions and your answers. We've allotted a half hour for each of these interviews, so we'll begin with Ms. Pepper, if you're ready.
I'm ready.
Hi. Hi, Eric, thank you. Please tell us a little bit.
You cut out there. Was that a tell you a little bit about myself?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Eric Osborne. I've been in Prineville with my wife for, oh boy, going on year 18 now. We've got 3 kids that are all in the public school system, 1 in middle school, 2 in elementary at Barnes Butte. I guess most of the stuff was already listed, but I'll just say it out there. I'm a biologist for the Oregon Department of Transportation. Prior to that, I've worked various jobs, including Forest Service, other random things here and there. I guess that's the bare bones of it. I don't know if you want me to flesh anything else out, but there you go.
Thank you.
Can you please tell us if you have any family members employed with the Crook County School District or any other potential conflicts of interest?
As far as other family members that are employed, no, I do not. I did work briefly as a substitute teacher, but that has since lapsed. So that was just during the COVID shortage, basically.
Thank you.
Okay, please share with the committee your availability to serve on the school board and what potential future commitments you may have.
Well, it'll be a lot like this. I believe I'm the only one that was virtual today, and most of that revolves around my daughter's at a wrestling match right now, which is why I'm virtual. So my schedule kind of revolves around mostly them and work, but I usually try to make things work as I can. As far as future commitment to it, it'll be the same thing. I mean, life is constantly juggling things. So yes, there are going to be conflicts here and there because I do have to work out of town for work. My kids have a lot of events that they go to, but at the same time, I can accommodate those. It's not always ideal, such as this, but it works in a pinch.
Thank you.
All right, please explain your experience with public meetings and speaking in public.
Public meetings and speaking in public. I've made a few comments at the school board meetings before, so I guess that counts as public meetings. I've had presentations to both kids and adults in different jobs that I've done. I used to help out with the Fin Fire Feather program, and I was a presenter during that. I'm doing school things through my work as well, kind of like a job, not quite shadow, but more like an introductory thing for high schoolers or elementary kids too. That kind of covers most of my public speaking. I mean, I'm a soccer coach as well. That's more geared towards children and organizing that. It's not so much getting up on a pulpit or anything and preaching to the choir.
Thank you.
Hey, would you be willing to attend trainings provided by the Oregon School Boards Association and the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, which includes some travel?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next question. Please share a recent conflict that you've had with an individual or situation and explain how the conflict was resolved. And what did you learn from that situation?
That's a good question. The most recent conflict I've had is actually pertaining to my work. So part of my job is in being an inspector for construction sites, and inevitably you're having to deal with contractors that have a certain goal in mind that you share that goal with, except you've got different priorities than they do on how to get things done. In this case, my job was to keep the agency from getting in trouble with permit violations, and the contractor really just wanted to get things done. So we had to brainstorm, and basically I had to tell them what they could not do. I could not tell them how to do things because I'm not sure how familiar people are with the contracting world for governments, but you're not allowed to direct them. Otherwise that ends up costing you more money. Anyways, what I can do is say, here are the rules. This is what we have to follow. Let's come up with some solutions, or maybe this might possibly work. So there can be some rough personalities, but a lot of times I find that if you express that you have the same goal in mind and you ultimately want to get to the same spot, you can work together even if you're coming from polar opposite directions, as long as you've got that common goal. So if you're stressing commonalities like that and just recommitting to how much you want to get that done, then you can usually find some kind of compromise. In this instance, it wasn't ideal for either of us. I'm still not totally happy. They're not happy, but usually that's a sign of a pretty good compromise.
Thank you.
Please tell us what you would bring to the board.
Bring to the board. I've like to think of myself as a pretty good listener. That's my main strength. Yeah, active listening and ability to learn. I believe that's the best you can ask for in this instance. Because as far as the school board goes, I will admit I'm a neophyte when it comes to school board administration and all of that kind of stuff, but a willingness to learn, ability to listen.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Osborne, that's it. We're informing each candidate, reminding them that we are simply a committee that will be making recommendations to the board. The board will be making the final decision. They may or may not want to have follow-up interviews or discussions. The next school board meeting is Monday at 6:30 at the middle school. If we make those recommendations tonight, then we'll present that to the board on Monday. So if you want to attend or watch virtually, that's available to you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys for your time as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
So for me. I mean, I liked his honesty. He was pretty honest about how busy he is. I'm a mother of two active kids. I know how busy sports can get. I mean, that's why I wasn't here yesterday. My son wrestles and his daughter wrestles, and it takes a lot of your time. That, I don't know if that would be a good thing or a bad thing. Also the soccer coach, which, you know, he is concerned, you know, he likes kids. He, you know, wants to work with kids. I think that's great. But I do know that sports definitely takes up a lot of your time.
That was my concern, is time commitments.
Yeah.
I think that's a concern. The one thing I did like was when he talked about, conflict resolution. My son has his own contractor company, and time to time I helped him out a day here, a day there. And I've seen him interact with inspectors on construction projects. I know exactly what he's talking about. And I like how he came to that resolution on that he was willing to listen and try to find mutual ground. And then
Common ground.
keep going.
Yeah.
That was a good answer. You did a good job on that question.
And like you said, sometimes they're not happy, sometimes I'm not happy, but we still have to find something that works.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I guess that's why.
I really think that was a great answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best I've heard this evening. One thing that concerned me about, in his question answers, go on and his resume. Said I want there to be a better candidate that applies. But until that time, I'm willing. You know, and that's an honest statement.
It is.
But it's, I think he has put himself out here so that to make sure something bad doesn't happen in his mind. You know. That may not be the strongest position, I guess.
I picked up on it as well.
Yeah, I picked up on that too. You know, all four candidates, I don't know any of them, and I'm just grateful that they have stepped up to the plate and applied for position. Maybe it's not really something that was on the radar, but maybe they were pushed to go forward with it, and there's a need. So they're coming forward to fill that need and that void.
Agreed.
And that unto itself, gives all of them.
Yeah.
And all of them gold star just for that. I was, as I'm looking at his application, what really stood out for me is how many references he made about what's best for students. I didn't see that as prevalent in the other ones, but that was time and time again, most of his answers were what's the needs of the students, what's best for the students, is this detrimental to the students? So I was very impressed with that. I see your point about kind of stepping up out there. Is there a better candidate? It's like I'm putting myself out there unless somebody else really is better in his mind. Yeah, I definitely liked his answers, and I think that I really like that he seems to have that commitments to the best for kids. So that stood out for me.
You know, his statement about, maybe there's somebody better. There's two sides of that too, that might show his character about how humble he might be.
That's actually how I took it initially. Yeah. And he would be vested. He's got kids. Yep. He's got kids, and as busy as he is. And he wants to make a good program.
He's been in the community for a while.
And I do remember him making statements at board meetings. And if I recall correctly, I was impressed on the thoughtfulness of what he said, whatever the position was, I can't remember what it was, but his words were thoughtful. So I did remember that.
Anything else on Mr. Osborne? Okay, if not, we'll move to 3.0. Applicant interview deliberations. So we've talked about each individually. Do you want to talk about them zone by zone? At this point?
I'd like to ask a follow-up question on the policy. I know, I know I have to ask this question like 3 times, so I apologize for keep pounding on it. And I was trying to wrap my head around it, so. If the board is to appoint someone before March 20th, that person fills the seat through June 30th until whomever runs for the election, assuming someone runs. Wins that election and takes over in July. If they don't appoint someone by March 20th, then the answer that we get is that the person who gets appointed goes through June 27th. So I guess my in-between question is the mechanism that triggers that spot to be on the ballot is not the vacancy of the seat, but the appointment itself. Because otherwise, what happens to the person running for the election if somebody's appointed on April 1st, that they wouldn't finish?
That's interesting technical hypothetical that we want to make sure our attorney looks at and gets a clear, because I believe I know what you're asking, and it leads to like an uncertainty of what would happen. I know that the intent and the desire is to have these positions fill out through June 30th, and let the people vote in the election to appoint who they want to fill out the rest. So we'll connect with our attorney on that tomorrow, and you can email that out to the committee.
Would that have a bearing on how you would rank these people or how you would make a recommendation? Because the way I look at it, I guess our job is to look at these and make a recommendation, rank, or whatever we want to call it, whatever we decide to do. But the scenario you're describing, which is a great question, by the way, I really appreciate it. I don't know if we have any bearing. It's this committee. That would be more of a school board lawyer. Again, I guess what I'm suggesting is we stay focused on these 4 and pick the most likely succeed, so to speak.
No, and I guess the reason I was asking is part of the policy, it says that we have to start with the first seat vacated. So that would be zone 3, and I feel very comfortable voting on that seat at this time. On zone 1, I'm not feeling that confident, and I would be leaning towards saying that we couldn't come up with a recommendation for zone 1 at this time. And I'm wondering what we would cause if we would be asking for them to extend the timeframe for that particular one that came open second. If that would remove the ability to have somebody on the ballot because they didn't get someone appointed to hold that spot. And so I wouldn't want to accidentally cause some kind of a ripple effect, but at this point, I feel comfortable voting on zone 3 and not zone.
My understanding, I could be wrong, my understanding is that we appoint, we don't appoint, we still could have several people that we aren't even familiar with apply to the clerk saying, I want to run in the May election. We have no control. We can't even imagine who that would be. So that's a separate thing. And the people that we appoint may not even, if they throw their name in, they may not even be elected. And two other people could come in.
No,
So, yeah.
anybody can run, that part we totally agree
Yeah.
on. The part that's tripping me up is that if a person's not appointed by March 20 from the filing date, then whoever does get appointed goes through June 2027. So what happens to the people that were running? It doesn't matter if they win the election? Or does that mean that it just doesn't go on to the ballot?
The people that win the election would be put in June 30th, correct?
The contract language, the policy language, and this is policy BBE, the appointee will, one, serve until June 30th. Following the next election cycle, at which time the individual elected in May of that year will fill the remaining portion of the unexpired term or serve a full 4-year term. So I think the simplest pathway forward is for this committee to have a recommendation for both seats to take to the board. Preferably on Monday, next Monday. So that I think is the most seamless path forward.
The rest of it, we can't control.
But I think there's another point maybe that I kind of thought a little bit. The same but different what you're saying is, I've had a thought that. And I don't know how, and maybe you can help us, Joel, is. We can do a couple of things in my mind. We can collaborate here tonight and. By consensus, say, for zone 3, this is our favorite, this is our second. Do we have 2 or 3 at zone 3?
2 each.
2 each, okay. So, likewise, we could say, we don't have a recommendation for another zone. And we said that, but where I'm going with this is, I'm trying to put myself in a board position. We can do the consensus and that makes sense, and I'm sure that's probably where you're gonna direct us, Mr. Chairman, but. Also, I'm thinking if I was a board member, I might wanna look at the individual. You know, how you felt as an individual, or me or anybody else, there's that aspect as well. Well, I wonder what Linda thought, you know, if I was a board member. I know Linda, I've known Linda a long time. I'd be real interested to see, you know, what Linda thought. As well as what the group. So that's just something I wanted to throw out tonight is, I don't know how we do this. I don't know if there's any rules that pertain to this goal. Or do we just simply do a consensus and say this is our round?
I'm gonna look to my friend, Mrs. Parker. I believe the board requested this committee just bring a recommendation of 2 names.
Okay.
Yes, and then, and then the board has the choice to either accept that recommendation or make it.
That answers my question.
Yeah, we
Yep.
certainly could include in the materials, your notes
Yeah.
or individual
Yeah.
ideas. We definitely could get that to the board, but I think.
Let's do what the board asks. And
Hey, you know, that generally is the right idea.
Yeah, I think.
We've had a lot of board meetings though, so I can't remember, I believe they asked for a recommendation of 2, 1 for each lot. Yeah.
Oh, Joel, if I understand what our job is here, I agree with Steve. We can recommend somebody or not recommend it. So we don't necessarily put a level of power of recommendation on anybody that we put forward. It's like kind of a yes or no deal.
That, my understanding was the board was hoping that you guys as a cross section of our community could talk to these candidates and bring forward 2 names to fill these slots. Okay, this is sense. Was my interpretation. I get it right?
My
My two bits worth, I think we have 4 qualified candidates. If not have no heartburn at all, recommending 1 for each.
I'm with you.
I feel the same way.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think there's anybody that I feel like we would throw out. And it kind of boils.
No, and I keep thinking myself, the board is going to look at these candidates too.
Yeah.
Their eyes are gonna
That's
be
a
on.
good thing to remind yourself, so.
So ultimately, they may decide, let's do a couple more things. We want to hear a little bit more.
Sure.
So are we ready? Everybody ready, or any more questions? We can do this two ways. We can do it by a show of hands, or I can go individually and just check which candidate you were in favor of. Show of hands, Tammy's gonna have to type down, the vote, who voted, so we could quickly go around to each person. Is that okay? And we have to do zone 3 first, correct? Okay, let's start with Mr. Forrester for zone 3. Oh, wait a minute, let me go how I wrote it down. I wouldn't know particular order here. Miss Wood, who do you select?
So zone 3,
Mhm.
Laura.
Mr. Forrester,
Kelsey.
Ms. Hemphill,
Kelsey.
Mr. McGuire,
Kelsey.
Ms. Songstad,
Kelsey.
Mr. Looney,
Kelsey.
Ms. Puckett,
Kelsey.
Ms. Pepper.
Oh, hold on, let me just, sorry.
Oh,
You guys can vote. Okay, sorry, I got caught up with Kathy, so it's been there.
Linda Pepper,
Kate.
Laura.
Laura, okay. And I vote, Kelsey Swick. We have the same 7-2 in favor of Kelsey Swick.
Yep.
Okay. We ready to move to zone 1? Miss Wood, do you have a choice?
Eric.
Mr. Forrester,
Eric.
Ms. Hemphill,
Eric.
Mr. McGuire,
Mr. Dable.
Ms. Songstad,
I'm gonna abstain on that one.
Mr. Looney,
Mabel.
Ms. Puckett,
Mabel.
Ms. Pepper,
Maybe.
and my vote is for Mr. Osborne. Sorry. Yeah, so, well, our recommendation could go as forwarded as that, correct?
I had them, it's interesting you said I had them both ranked and then numerically I had them ranked in a tie.
Yeah.
Right.
So 4-4 and 1 abstain.
Would it, can that be our recommendation that we have? Ms. Swick for, zone 3, and we would have to leave it to the board
Yeah.
to determine zone 1 with the current candidate.
Absolutely. I believe so, yeah. And again, my gut heart tells me they're going to want more information and we'll look into it closer to see who they feel will fit best with them. All right, is everybody comfortable? We will, I hope to see you Monday, but I certainly understand if you can't be there. I really appreciate everybody showing up and volunteering.
We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Before you hit the gavel,
Mhm.
I've asked Steve to help me out here, but I just wanted, or always to help us out, but I wanted to acknowledge Tammy.
Absolutely.
And Chris, back there at IT, you know, we know this took time away from your personal life and we appreciate it. Tammy did a great job, communicating and
Yeah,
setting us
thank
up
you.
and having the IT support huge as well. So
Yeah.
thank both of
And
you.
as well, Joe.
Well, what about?
I,
you?
I actually sleep back in that.
Got this.
I would still be working on the first agenda if I was doing.
Yeah.
Some of the first class assistants that I've had experience with.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, you bet. I just really appreciate you all taking time. I know this is time away from your families and the evenings, and the work you did here was so valuable. So thank you very much. It's important to the board.
Tammy, do you need these back?
Yes, please. If I can keep those become public records, so I have to keep those on file.
I'm gonna give it all back to you.
Yeah, no, just give me the one. I'm happy with that.
We want to gavel and
Yeah.
call this one officially.
Yeah.
now.
Meeting adjourned.